Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks to Ben and the Creative Morning team for having us. This is kind of a daunting room and a daunting task and a very daunting topic. It's like, love is all you need. This is, I think we're going to need more than that this morning. When we talked to Ben, as he said, we talked about a lot of different ways that this topic could be approached. And I think for us, we work in a business where every single night we have to convince 250 or more people that we love them, right? And we have to do it in a way that's authentic and real, and we have to, as business owners, do it with integrity. So it's kind of the tantamount virtue in what we do. Michael and I being partners in business and partners in life, this topic really resonates for us very deeply.
It does. Sorry, I'm doing this because, as people have been mentioning the hour and stuff like that, but this is particularly offensive to bar people and musicians and stuff like that. So I have a lot of notes. I have no slides, but there's notes. So just making sure that those are all put together in our technological way.
You'll be fine, there's coffee. So you guys woke up super early to hear us talk about love, but instead I'm going to talk about fried chicken. And I think in some circles, the two words are synonymous. So my grandmother Lola, who is approaching 80, lives in San Diego, where I'm from. And she and her partner Annabelle this November, they will have been together for 46 years. And, before the sentiments of love is love were so readily embraced by our society, I had the opportunity to watch these two women build a life together. And their model for love and what that meant had a huge impact on me and on how I interact with Michael. And watching them endure has really been one of the greatest gifts of my life. But the thing about Lola is that she speaks only one love language. How many of you know the book, The 5 Love Languages? Okay, and if you're not familiar with the book, the author sort of supposes that there are 5 languages that each of us speak. It's either words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, gifts, and whatever dialect you are, your ability to find love in someone else, the success of that relationship is based on, do you find someone that speaks your same language, right? Well, Lola speaks one language, which is food. And that's the only language that she knows. And when I first brought Michael to California to meet my family, of course, she cooks this massive spread, right? Just epic, for 2 people, just us, right? Epic, massive spread. And we sit and we eat, and we literally had to waddle away from this kitchen table to retire to the porch to visit. And, not even an hour after this meal, we're still rubbing our bellies. Lola pops up and says, "Would anyone like a snack while we're visiting?" And I'd kind of warned Michael that this was going to happen. And I said, "Look, just be polite, please, and don't, just eat it, because she's not going to not ask. And she's not going to take no for an answer."
I was drinking beer. I could take a handful of peanuts. Whatever. Fine. Sure.
So she pops up and she disappears. And out of nowhere, she walks back into the patio with a plate of fried chicken. 16 pieces of fried chicken for us to eat. And of course I was mortified, right? And to be honest, I've been fighting the same 30 pounds since I was 12 years old, thanks to this woman. But the thing about the fried chicken, it so perfectly encapsulates who she is as a person and how she shows love to other people. And now that Michael and I are in the business of nourishing people, I think a lot about that fried chicken, and I think a lot about Lola and what compels her to do things like that, right? And it's charming. She's very charming. But there's also, I think, something deeper underneath it that has really revealed itself to me. And it's the idea of, what if they aren't full, right? What if they're still hungry? What if what I gave wasn't enough, right? And of course, the subtext of all of this is, what if I'm not enough for them, right? How much do you allow yourself to give and to be consumed by the propulsion to give before it just becomes too much?
Okay, on to me. So Jessica kind of Tarantino'd this timeline and stuff, so we're going to go back to the beginning now. So for Jessica and I, sort of our story was, I was living in New York with a roommate who was a chef, decided to go on to other things. So in 2004, I put an ad out on roommates.com.
This was pre-Craigslist,
Yeah,
right? So like you were
pre-Craigslist.
circling ads in the newspaper to find roommates.
And ultimately met Jessica. And for 4.5 to 5 years, we were completely platonic roommates. Like, she was always my best wingman. And we went on, we kind of became really good friends. We had these great careers. I was working in advertising, she was working in publishing. And as we went on and we got closer and started hanging out as friends and everything, one night we went out to the Lenox Lounge on 125th Street, RIP. We didn't even have a spark to the point of like the minute before that it happened. And then one time we were standing there and it was just, and then it was there. And then like suddenly we got it. So that started happening. We were a little awkward at times, you know, we were in separate bedrooms and sometimes it was too cold to be in separate beds. But, you know, so we go on and we have this life, and now we're kind of owning New York. Like, we've got great jobs and we've got this cool relationship and we had a sweet apartment. We had a backyard in Manhattan, like it was awesome. And all these great things. So then I was like, fuck it, let's get out of here. Let's go. Let's Seinfeld this shit and let's just go. We're on top. Let's do it. So we decided to move down to Austin. I decided that it would be a good idea to move down to Austin to get married, move to a new city. I had lived here before. And start a new business, which is like on the 4th level of like the highest stress you can possibly do. And Jessica decided to come with me for...
I followed a boy.
Yeah. So this idea of doing Why a Bar, when we were there, we were kind of wrapped up in this idea of hospitality. Like, we went out to places. We always liked the idea of being served and then in turn wanting to serve people and make them happy. You know, we were never the kind of people that like drank beers at home. Like, we liked the idea of going out and being in environments that we had there. It wasn't as much about even the food or the alcohol. It was the experience that we were having. So we come down. She loved me and I loved her. And we wanted, so going back to this fried chicken thing, the fried chicken thing was more of like this idea of more. So fried chicken is a good thing, and you're good people, and I love you, so I want to give you more and give you more. So we had this idea that we lived together. We'd been living together for a long time. We had this idea that we loved each other, and we wanted to do this thing, so why don't we just add some more shit on? We can just spend more time together, and it'll be great, because we already enjoy it. So why don't we just be together constantly, all the time, every day, doing what you're doing, then get up, wake up in the morning, talk about the stuff, and be together again. Sounded fantastic.
More fried chicken, right?
More fried chicken, seriously.
All
we were
the
like,
fried
yeah,
chicken.
17 pieces, please, Lola. So we come down and we get in this thing and we start working, and then it worked, actually. You know, we get down here and we were very successful and very popular in the beginning doing drink.well. We got a lot of great press. We met fantastic people. Jessica was doing great with, like, she was doing these competitions and being written up in these magazines and all this kind of stuff, and it was very popular for us. We were very fortunate because a lot of these things fail, and we were doing really well in the beginning. But soon we started realizing this thing that we did, because of the love that we had with each other, the bar became bigger than us. So now we are the bar. So now we end up being the bar and everything. And then timeline-wise, if anybody who's been in Austin for a while, we started being a part of this community in 2010. We opened in 2012. Like, this whole upswing of cocktail bars and food and stuff like that was really happening at that time, and we were very much involved in it. So now being in that scene, kind of the FOMO of not being in stuff and always having to be in the magazines and be at the parties and all that kind of stuff, even became greater than that. So now we're realizing that the love that we're doing and we're trying to be a part of whenever goes from the love of the community and being in a scene, the love of the actual bar and the customers that we're dealing with, and then there's us. So now we were third priority in the whole thing. And then even there, you're going down a little bit because then there's also the self-love kind of thing, because of the hard part about being in a bar is that when most of you have a bad day, people don't put it on the internet. They do it for us. Yeah, everything sucked last night. Yeah, man, it was off, all that kind of stuff. And then it's, on the internet. So like make sure that you're maintaining that love and everything is very important. Also, one of the things is like, with giving so much love to the customers and stuff, one of the things that we always say is the best compliment that we get is kind of inspiring love in other people. When you're behind the bar and you see blind dates, first dates, people coming out for the first time to a place after they've just had a baby. Somebody brings their parents into town who they've just moved to the city and they want to show them, a cool place. They chose our place to do that. So that's extremely complimentary and something that we were doing, but at the same time was kind of eating away at the ability of us to have our specific love with each other.
Yeah, we reached a point where the joy that we were able to provide so many other people was really eating away at the joy that we felt being together. And the thing from practicality standpoint, the thing about the service industry, and I'm sure it's true for musicians too, that it's very entrepreneurial in nature. So the more you give, that's the only way to receive it back, right? The more hours you put in, the more time you spend with the guests, the more time you spend with the staff, it has an immediate and direct reward. So the compulsion to continue to give is extremely high. And for Mike and I, we had to really learn pretty quickly to set some limits to how much of ourselves we were willing to give other people, because at the end of the day, we still had to have something left for each other.
So I'm going to do a Bible quote, which I don't do, but this is actually the part after what you saw in Wedding Crashers from 1 Corinthians, which is love knows no limit to its endurance, no end to its trust, no fading of its hope. It can outlast anything. Love never fails. Love fails all the time, constantly. It doesn't get broken, it doesn't destroy, but love fails considerably. I mean, it does. When you're pursuing a project or a relationship or whatever like that, it gets knocked down constantly. But the thing that definitely is important and is constant is the endurance. The endurance to keep slugging through, the endurance to, whether you're working on a project or being in a relationship or whatever, to keep trying can only come from love, because if you don't love it, you won't do it. I mean, why bother?
Right. Well, and I think, Michael and I were talking about this last night. What happened to Michael and I does not happen to most people, right? 80% of bars fail in the first year. And those are for people that are experienced operators, that know what they're doing and that were well funded, right? We had none of that. And I think that, love fails all the time and businesses fail all the time. And we had to find a way to navigate that and endure through it. But at the end of the day, ultimately, we did love each other, we did care, and we wanted to do it right. And that requires nothing more than work.
And I think going back, if we talk about, they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. That's malarkey, as Joe Biden would say. No, it's still work. We love the fact that it makes you happy. We love the result of it. It's like working out. I like feeling good. I like looking good. But working out blows. Okay, great. Whatever, fine. I appreciate the results. But, so doing that, feel honored to get up and work and help people and, do what we love.
Yeah. Well, and so the point that we're driving at is that there's an incredible amount of discipline that is needed to be able to stop and say, what I gave today is enough, right? The amount of work that I put out, the amount of love that I put into the world, that's enough. And when we were kind of putting the finishing touches on this talk, we got to the end of it and I told Michael, I was like, this sounds like we're telling people to stop loving, right? That's not a good message, especially in this day and age. But I think that there's something to be said for reaching a point in your day where you're like, what I have given is of value, and I don't need to give any more because I've reached the point in the day or in the week or in the month or in the life when what I have has had meaning for someone else. there's a social researcher named Brene Brown. Is anyone familiar with Brene Brown? Okay, so I'm kind of obsessed with. So I go to the Church of Oprah. So if that is my Jesus. So you hear about those people that are like, I'm going to do everything Oprah does for a year, and like I am that person, right? And that's how I came to discover Brene Brown's work. But if you're not familiar with her, she's a social researcher based out of the University of Houston, and she studies vulnerability and shame, right, and its impact on our life. And she spent her entire career studying this. And she's sort of come to the conclusion that all of us within us have this hardwired thing where we have a shame-based fear of being ordinary and being average. And it is that fear that blocks us from giving and receiving love in a really authentic and wholehearted way. And kind of studying that and thinking about Michael's relationship with each other and with our guests, we're at a point in our marriage and in our business and our lives where we're sort of realizing, what if us just being there is enough, right? Brene writes, we cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known, when we honor the spiritual connection that grows from offering trust, respect, kindness, and affection. Being in the craft of hospitality and of service is an incredible gift because it allows us to express those things every single day to 250 strangers every single night. And it's because of that gift that Michael and I have discovered that we have this incredible reservoir of love that we just weren't tapping into. What we've had to learn is that we spent the first 7 years of our career in this preaching a lot of love, but not necessarily practicing it internally. And we've come to the point where we're asking ourselves, what if they're really not that hungry, right? What if they don't need any more from us than us just being present in that space with them? Brene writes, love is not something that we give or get. It is something that we nurture and grow, but it's a connection that can only be cultivated between two people when it exists in each one of them. We can only love others as much as we love ourselves. And I think as we've built these businesses, Mike and I kind of lost touch with the loving of ourselves. So we're spending a little bit more time working on that piece of it. I watched Hillary Clinton's speech last night, and she said, we work together so that we can rise together. And that was a very touching moment for me because I think about that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time together thing, right? The fried chicken, right? We wanted the fried chicken, and we didn't really tap into the idea that we're doing it so that we can rise together, right?
With optional fried chicken. Which is the name of my new band.
But I think that's for us, that was what really attracted us to this opportunity to be here with Creative Mornings, is that the beauty of this platform is that it's allowing people to be seen very deeply and in a very authentic space and in a very authentic way. And I think that's the love that this program is putting out into the world.
I agree.
Yeah. That's it.